board for another
You're live.
nonprofit.
Yeah. We're gonna get started.
4 years.
We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are we all good with John?
We're good with John.
We're good with John. I'll take a motion to have John participate remotely.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Actually, yeah, we can do that without John, right? I'm an aye, so John is allowed to participate remotely. You're welcome. And first order of business is to review and sign payroll and accounts payable for the period ending 10/21. We had payroll in the amount of $31,929.60. We did have some extra overtime for PD and FD. We had 25.5 hours of police overtime and 27.5 hours of fire overtime. Most of that was due to the Seabrook drill. There was some corporal testing that happened for police, and there was some canine training that occurred as well. So we did have a little bit of more overtime than usual. Accounts payable was paid out in the amount of $62,516.88, and we had no ACH payments in this pay period. Did you guys sign the rec manifest? Yeah, he's got it over there.
Did she have it?
I think
Yeah, I
she's got
see it.
there, yeah. I'll remember you tonight.
Okay.
Last time I just stormed ahead without.
That's okay.
Take no prisoners.
I know,
Right.
right?
We all have priorities. Move along.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you
You're
later.
welcome.
Karen needs to
Okay.
add it to the minutes. Let Joyce leave.
Yes, Joyce was dismissed at 6:02 PM.
No, I mean on the agenda.
I know.
So you can check it off.
Yeah, I only forgotten once. I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved.
Second?
In this week's consent agenda are the public minutes from 10/17, the rec manifest, the treasurer's report, and building permits. I have a motion and a second. We'll take roll call. Andy?
Aye.
John? Yes? Or do you want to abstain? Abstain? Okay. Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll pass the consent agenda. We will now open up for public comment. You're welcome to comment on anything on the agenda or not on the agenda. As usual, we'll ask anybody interested in public comment to come up to the closest microphone so their comments can be recorded. Anyone interested in public comment for tonight? Letty's gonna wheel on up. Fast. Sure.
Letty Bedard, Middle Road. Thank you for posting the budgets that you're talking about in the packet because it makes it easier for us to follow along. And I was wondering if you could just briefly explain why some lines have 0, but they're still in the budget, and some lines have 1. Like, I guess if it's 0, why is it still in there? Or what does that mean?
Do you have an example of any that had 0?
I
don't know.
Sure, reading those, I mean, there's all kinds. Just,
Oh,
I didn't
for-
know if there was
yeah.
a reason why some of them have 0s. If there's a rule about
I
keeping
think
lines
for
in.
regional associations, is that kind of what you're referring to? or-
Yes, but it's in other budgets too. Just sometimes there's 0s.
So to maintain the historical data, we can't just delete the account number,
Okay.
and so we leave them in here as zeros. The ones that have $1, it's so that you can't expend any money from a line item that has 0. If it has $1, you can spend up to the general operating budget amount.
Okay, so just because there doesn't mean that you'll be able to just put money in that
Correct.
when you want to spend something.
If
You
it's
can't.
0, you can't.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So it's more historical in this case.
Yes.
Any other public comment?
Just a
Come
quick follow-up to Letty's question. Rebecca Dunham, 9 Block Drive. I understand keeping the historical record of some of these organizations, but if they no longer exist, they're number of them that have folded or merged. They'll still have to be in here because it's confusing to see them when they haven't existed for 10 years, 12 years, whatever.
When we do the regional association budget tonight, I think we could probably maintain a vote to remove some of them,
Okay,
if they're
'cause I-
ones that you know of that no longer exist.
Yeah, I have 4 that have either merged or gone out of business.
Do you see any reason why we couldn't do that?
No, I think they'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment for tonight? Seeing no further public comment, we will close public comment at 6:05 and move on to discussion action items. Our main action items tonight are 3 budget proposals for Regional Association Cemetery and Information Systems. The first on our list is Regional Associations, which we were just referring to, so come on back up.
Okay.
Long time no see.
Rebecca Dunham, 9 Block Drive. As I said in our presentation, after the decisions were made before town meeting, we found we needed to increase our budget from 17,500 to 18,000. It was a little tight, and that's what we're asking for this year. We have always met the needs of organizations. They make some tough choices, but I think we've done a good job of serving the organizations that really serve our community, our residents. So that's our request for the coming year, 2024. Do you need what happens at this point? You just,
Do you have particular line items of these organizations that you think would make sense to strike off here? The ones
Yes.
that you feel,
Could I, sorry, before we leave
that's
Yeah.
my question, yeah.
I just, and this is not a loaded question at all, but really just for general knowledge,
Yeah.
myself and maybe Paul, I don't know, but do you mind just explaining what it is that you do?
Sure, happy
I
to do
just
that.
sounded like
that's a helpful reminder.
Office Space, the movie there, but yeah.
Back in 2019, there were questions at town meeting why that there were 3 or 4 organizations that were grandfathered into the budget because they had been funded for 3 years, so that was the policy. They weren't required to provide any information. They sent a note asking for the money, and the other organizations that put a warrant in provided a lot more information. They did a presentation, they talked about the services. We felt that was an unfair playing field. So the select board at that time removed the grandfathering and set up a process that was created through a public meeting as to what do we need to know about a charity that's applying, do they serve our residents, a little bit about the finances. We set up 4 criteria. They need to be a 501c3, they need to serve Brentwood residents, they need to be registered with the state attorney general, and at this moment, I'm forgetting the 4th
I
one.
think they need an office in
They need-
Brentwood
yes,
or in New
They
Hampshire.
can be a national organization in Minnesota with no base in New Hampshire. So those are the 4 criteria, which are pretty broad and easy to comply with. This will be the 4th year that we are doing this. We developed an application form that is available. It's online, or they call Karen and they can receive an application. It's pretty simple, some financial information, their board of directors, how many residents of Brentwood do they serve, anything that would be pertinent. They usually send their IRS 990, maybe an audit if they're large enough to be audited, a brochure or a description of some of the activities, and also are there Brentwood residents who support them? Are they receiving support from individuals? And they mostly comply with that, except 2 who by their charter cannot reveal donors' names. I don't go into that. So this process has been refined a little bit over the last 3 years. We changed the application form a couple of times. This year we added, and this was thanks to the Exeter process, which is very similar. There's a line added to the application that you can't leave the financial information blank and say see audit or see IRS. You have to fill in the form so that everyone is treated in an equitable manner. We've had that problem a couple of years ago. We hope this prevents that. And we gave them a little bit of a pass during COVID because most of the applications arrived after the deadline. But we figured they were under so much pressure that we decided to do that. Not last year, but the year before, we chose not to fund a number of organizations because they had such large surpluses from PPE forgiveness or other CARES Fund Act. So we felt we'd support the more needier organizations. that's what we do.
Thank
And
you.
it's similar to processes in Exeter, Newmarket, a couple of other towns. We're not the only town that does
Yeah.
it this way.
I really appreciate that summary. It highlights how important it is, and I also think it's just another case of where, you know, regional associations is not the sexiest name,
Right.
and yet it's very important work, but it's kind of vanilla, typical of a lot of government and terminology.
Yeah, the name
so-
doesn't really
No.
Yeah,
signify
and I'm-
what it really
And
is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
their choice of the category, that's how they
Yeah,
rate
yeah.
it, so, yeah.
No, but it's very helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Becky, you have a committee
We have
of
a committee of
6 or 8 people, right?
5 people.
5 people.
And one alternate last year, because the year before, one person could not attend a meeting. We wanted an uneven number, so we postponed the meeting until we could get all 5 there. There's a variety of backgrounds. Some people have worked with grants and foundations in the past. Some who have served the town in a couple of ways. Other citizens who just wanted to volunteer. And when we had the public meeting, there were a lot of people in the audience who asked good questions. So we thought it was a fair process that we developed.
Yeah, nice, thank you.
Okay?
And that's how you made, the 18,000 that you're seeking then goes to the various,
Not the ones that you see here, pretty much. These,
No.
a lot of these are old historic groups that have gone out or merged
okay.
and become
These are prior recipients.
prior recipients.
Okay.
Some of these, yes, some of these are groups that we support. They haven't changed their name yet, they've gone out of business. But not all the ones we support through the regional associations are showing up on this list. I don't know how how the auditing or the mechanics of that happens. I know at the end of the year, end of the fiscal year, they'll be listed in the annual report which ones picked up their funding.
So what happens then? Do we get, like, the committee's recommendations for
Yes.
this, and then we end up voting? Is that the,
Yeah, they come to us with their recommendations after their meeting.
Reasons why, and a little bit of history, and then Karen sends out a letter to the organizations notifying that they have been funded and to send a letter asking for the check. And that's pretty good. It's usually, pretty much everyone does. 1 or 2 years we've had, they haven't picked up the check and we don't know why. But pretty much they do, because they're looking for the money.
Yeah, it seems to work pretty well.
is
It's
there
a
a
good process.
limit, like in terms of what you would donate to one, or is it just whatever within the discretion?
Uh, I don't know the history prior to 2019.
Yeah.
But in the process, this woman is putting together an Excel chart that will show a little bit of the history of the organization so that we can see if there's a pattern, if they're consistent in what they're asking for. Is there a change in their organization that demands, maybe they don't need as much money, or maybe they need a little bit more. We produce an Excel document that has as much basic information as possible, so when the committee meets, we don't have to look through folders that are this thick with all the audit. It's just summarized. And then the folders are available if anyone has any questions.
I think in general, what I've seen your committee do is try to sort of equitably fund multiple different organizations. So the grants have been like from $1,500 to maybe 7,000, might be kind of,
But maybe
5 to
6,
7,
about 6 is about
right.
the maximum I've
so
seen.
generally to try to fund like 4, 5, 6 organizations per cycle, rather than like a big block grant to one group, is what I've seen your group mostly
Right,
do
and,
the past few years.
At the beginning of this, we were meeting with Sue Benoit, our welfare officer, asking her, what are the priorities this year? Where do you see the most calls for assistance? And there are a lot more programs out there now through the state of New Hampshire. There's a housing program that was really very generously funded this year by the state. I don't know how that will affect what we get from Southern New Hampshire Services, if there'll be a lot of, because they have a lot of money for homelessness. So I don't know how that's going to affect the applications that we see this year. And there's also the ARPA funds. I don't know how many of these groups have taken advantage of that,
Sure.
or getting the money back from what they pay for employees in Social Security or tax. So we'll see what that proves this year.
Yeah. Well, it's very,
It's interesting.
well, it's interesting and invaluable, and it's giving back, so
It's a
kudos.
level playing field, which
Yeah.
we think is important.
Well, I just like I like the changes, how it's just very transparent. It's all, everybody's treated
Yeah.
exactly the same, so it's just very above board and
And our discussion.
Very clear.
Our meeting is posted, so people are welcome to sit in. We've had some people sit in, yes. So,
yeah, It's a very clear process.
Yes.
How often do they meet?
We meet once a year. I might communicate with them saying, watch out, looking ahead, what's your availability for meetings? I pick up the applications from Karen and do the preliminary processing and gather some information. I've been collecting articles on these groups all year so that we're prepared to know a little bit more about the history. We tend to meet, last fall was very difficult because of I had COVID, so I couldn't meet with people in November and December, so we moved it to January. But we meet once a year and discuss it all, and then we report at Selectboard.
Open to the public.
Open to the public, yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
The organizations that I know have changed, I'll start from the bottom of the list. Care permanently closed according to
Yeah, that's
the
closed.
website. New Outlook, I spent a half hour, I couldn't find anything in New Hampshire. There were a couple that were closed. I would say that one's closed in New Hampshire. I found ones in Illinois, but not here. Rockingham Community Action is now Southern New Hampshire Services. Yes, Southern New Hampshire Services. Rockingham Nutrition is Meals on Wheels, and Rockingham Nutrition, that stays. Richie McFarland merged with,
Waypoint.
is now Waypoint.
Yep.
Which is Child and Family Services,
Right, so
yes.
both of those no
Both
longer
of
really
those, yeah.
exist.
A Safe Place merged with Haven in 2015. And the rest, Seacoast Mental Health Center still exists. I couldn't find anything about just sexual assault support. I don't know if that's an
I think that's
organization.
Haven.
That's
That's
Haven, that
Haven now.
merged too, okay. Haven. Seacoast Hospice still exists, or it's, I think it is Rockingham VNA, I think they're merged together, aren't they? I think, or maybe not. I used to volunteer at VNA, so I thought they merged, but I could be wrong. So leave those, and that's it. So there were 2 or 3 that have merged or gone out of business,
So that
terminated.
was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that appear to no longer be independently operating. Is that the same that you got? Yeah.
If you want to provide that list to me, Karen, I'll verify that one more time just to make sure. Okay, thank you.
But there's probably no need to keep them as placeholders if they've officially closed, right? So we
Yeah.
could just clean that list up. Do you need a vote from us to do that, or can we just clean it up on the back end? Okay.
Okay.
So any questions?
I know it's not time, but, so if we have a 0 next to Richie McFarland, does that mean we can't give them money?
That's very interesting. If I may answer Linda's question. My husband and I had a child enrolled in Richie McFarland. I was on the board, so it's very important to us to support that. So last year, we made our gift in December. It took 4 calls to find someone to talk to about Richie McFarland. It was hard to find, they
No,
don't appear.
I'm talking budgetarily, because when I was asking about the zeros, if there's a 0 next to that, does that mean that we can't give them money?
They no longer exist as
I
an
don't know,
independent.
I feel like my question is not.
I'd budget those dollars in the 800 line.
Okay, so it's okay because it's not in that
That's where
line.
I plan
Right.
to, that's where that's appropriated.
Okay.
So these other are just pure historical record keeping because all the funds come out of the 800 line.
All of them do now. So I take that 800 line, I
Yeah.
put the budget dollar, and then I attach the spreadsheet of what is recommended by the,
So do we really need any of these 801 through 817 any
only
longer?
if you want historical data, but they've been in, this organization, your subcommittee has been around for more than 3 years, so.
4 years.
Yeah.
So should we just maybe clean it out
gonna
and
get rid
just
of
go
all
to
of
the
them?
800 line? Because we have a separate record keeping process for how they do their work, right? We don't budget for the individual organizations any
We
longer.
don't, and they're past their audit process where we would be required to keep those
Right,
invoices.
so maybe
at
just
this point.
cleaning it up and just
Okay.
taking you down to a one-line budget would make more sense at this point. Okay.
Is there a reason why we call it regional associations? Is that just historical too, or?
That's historical too, yeah.
I mean, but we could characterize it how we like.
Is that the state's terminology?
I think it's like that standard accounting term
Yeah.
that is.
It is
used.
confusing. It would be much better if it was like town-directed charitable giving
Yeah.
or something that people actually knew what it meant when they looked at it.
Not-for-profit giving or something,
Right.
or, yeah.
Could we maybe look into if there's an alternate
Let me look into
title
Ports,
that might make sense.
and Newmarket and Exeter to see how they label theirs.
Yeah,
I'll just
just it
check
might
on
make, I think when people are looking at the annual report, it might click more if they really understood what that 800 budget line really means.
Do you want to keep this separate, or would you rather me find another more appropriate line and put this in the welfare budget? Right, because the intent of this is really to help drive our welfare costs down. So you have the direct assistance line in welfare, which is money that's given
Yep.
straight from the town general fund to residents.
Yep.
And then we have all of these organizations where we offset those services and partner with them and say, hey, we'll give you this donation, and
Right.
then they provide the services directly to the residents.
I think that makes more sense.
Just put it all together,
Yeah.
because it's all community assistance essentially. So maybe that would make more sense.
That's a
Um,
perfect descriptor.
And then I think it takes that question like, oh, you're just donating to them. Well, you're not, like, there's very
It's for
specific purpose
community welfare, right?
behind it.
Would you be opposed to that, to just putting it under the welfare?
I don't think so,
Line?
if the committee continues to exist as it does, and we do not interfere with what supervisor or welfare
Not at all.
officer.
Because it would be a
does.
separate
I don't want
line
any cross-
item.
Yeah, I don't want any cross.
Just
challenge.
clean it up a little bit, sure.
So then do you want to table this budget, because you'd have to reopen the welfare budget, include this dollars in that budget line?
Just do that next week when we have it in front of us.
Can't we just approve the 18,000 as budgeted?
No, because we have to
Not if we're
move
gonna
it.
reopen another budget and put it in, because we already approved welfare.
But, yeah,
Or
We
can
could
we
leave it-
reopen welfare right now?
We can leave,
Would anyone be opposed just to reopening the welfare? It was a one-line budget, right?
whatever, Karen, whatever you, I mean, as far as
Whatever you
I'm
think is
concerned.
best.
So the welfare budget was approved at 7407, I believe. Let me just make
We
sure.
could also do it next week, and it's not like,
Yeah,
it's not like Rebecca has to come back and
No.
repeat
Well,
everything.
whatever's
no, it's just housekeeping.
process.
I'm not hearing any opposition to your budget of 18,000.
Thank
So
you.
it's just where we put it.
Thank you.
Anytime we can clean it up a little bit, be nice.
Yeah. Hi, Tamara. How you doing?
Yeah, 7407, so the new
7407.
budget would be 25407.
Combined.
I'd entertain a motion to reopen the welfare budget to amend it.
moved,
Second?
All in favor, Andy?
aye.
John? Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll reopen the welfare budget and amend it from 7407
25407.
25407. I'll take a motion to approve the welfare budget as opened at the new value of 25407 with the additional line item for the Regional Association funding of 18,000.
Moved,
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Andy?
aye.
John?
Aye.
Russ is an aye. Paul? And I'm an aye. So we will just put that into that budget to clean it up. And Becky, you are all set for your 18,000.
That was
Thank you for
easy.
your
Thank
hard
you.
work on
Thank
that
you.
committee.
Questions?
Yeah, I appreciate
you.
that.
All right,
Do you
You
need
happy?
a motion or anything to
Eliminate this?
ixnay the regional association budget,
Because we'll
or?
just fund it at zero.
we can just remove it, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
For the record, that's big line.
All
Ixnay?
right, moving on to cemetery budget. So we have Joyce here, come on down. All right, what you got for us?
So you guys have the spreadsheet that I sent out. So the only increases we're looking at would be the wage, to 4.99% increase of $1.37. And we are also increasing the stipend, but that doesn't get FICA, that's just like a straight liquor vendor. So what it is basically one of my trustees gets paid to be the clerk. And what he does is he helps me out, takes all my notes from the minutes. If I have paperwork that I need help with, he will help me, or he or she will help me do that. So we're going from 600 to 650 with that one. We also increased the fuel and oil line because the mileage rate went up. And also my traveling increased a little bit over the last year. I do 2 meetings a year for New Hampshire Graveyard Association, do 2 meetings a year for New Hampshire Cemetery, and then I'm responsible for picking up some of the supplies because it's cheaper than doing them now. And again, we are just gonna keep that $1 for the equipment, just to hold as the placeholder. So as of October 5th, our amount left was 27.65%. Our entire budget then will only increase the 5.10%.
So you said, so it's the wage line, the stipend line, and the fuel oil
Yep.
line really are the only changes
Yep.
for you, okay? Questions or comments from the board?
I'll move the 14,367.54, an increase of $697.54.
Here's a question on the wage thing.
Okay.
So, again, this is kind of a rudimentary thing, Joyce, but, who, there's how many people are, I guess, are involved when it comes to the wage increases? Is it just the one
You're looking at her.
person?
That's me.
But you mentioned the,
So the stipend though is actually for so it's actually within the rules and regulations that we have our cemetery trustees and we also elect a clerk. Right now, our clerk is one of our trustees. Before then, we actually had someone else sitting as a clerk. So what it is we'd like to keep that because as time evolves, and God forbid I'm not here, you're gonna have somebody doing my job, but you're also gonna need someone who's gonna be a clerk. That clerk would end up doing sale of deeds, lots, probably doing a lot of the paperwork for the perpetual care. So that's just being held by that, but right now that person, we hemmed and hawed, do we wanna bring somebody else in to do the job? But one of the trustees said, no, I'd like to do it, take the minutes, do the filing, help you with clerk work. So it's actually just kind of in-house.
So the wages line is Joyce as the superintendent, and
Right,
then
okay.
the separate stipend is for one of the
Gotcha.
trustees.
and as it says here, about 6 hours per week, or
Yes.
is that the? Yeah,
I work 6 hours a week.
Yeah, gotcha. Perfect.
Any other questions? Paul, did you have a question?
No, so you work 6 hours and the stipend person is,
They come to meetings and do that, and it's just, if it's like a pickup type of thing, like if I say, oh my God, I have a huge filing thing, they'll stipend.
There's a
do
motion
we
on
need
the
a second?
table. Yes.
I'll second, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for the budget of 14,367.54. All in favor, Andy?
Aye.
John? Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
aye.
And I'm an aye, so you have a passed budget. Thank you very much.
Was this version 6?
V6.
It probably is V6, yeah.
It says V6 at the top. So it's the best version. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Joyce.
And for anyone who's interested who hasn't donated to the Brentwood Doe program, I believe that's still open for donations, right?
That is, but we're also, I'm putting that on the back burner. I'm putting that on the back burner for now because we're actually started the Reese Across America fund
Right.
drive, and I was gonna bring that to a later board meeting, but
Gotcha.
DNA Doe is totally on board, they totally get where we're coming from.
Gotcha.
They're just gonna keep moving ahead with doing whatever scientific stuff they have
Yep.
to, and we'll probably pick it up again after. the
So
first
wreaths
meeting.
first, then Doe.
Back to
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next budget we have is information systems.
Who's on the hot seat for this one?
That
Probably
is
Karen,
me.
I would assume.
So, hardware support is our Block 5 contract. So the managed support cost is staying the same. The monthly that also includes our Microsoft licenses, which is increasing based off of the number of email addresses and Microsoft Office subscriptions that we need. And then I also moved the yearly renewals into here. So those are smaller items that are one-time, like updating our enom for our website is in there, it's $5. And then firewall and switch licenses are included in that cost there.
Went into hardware support or software support?
Hardware support.
Hardware support.
So software support is the support cost that we pay to BMSI, which is our fund accounting, payroll, AP, and our tax systems. It covers Interware, which is what Daphne uses for dogs, Avatar, which Daphne uses for town clerk and car registrations, and then our Patriot Assessing, which is a larger cost because that is for our assessing program plus Permit Pro. The website, I dropped down to $1. The hosting cost is going to be absorbed by our Municipal One contract, which for 5 years is coming out of the impact fee account. And there's no longer a cost to register our .gov account. And the rest of the costs I kept level funded. Internet service, Vimeo is gone, but if we wanted to purchase thumb drives, printers, monitors, those are all level funded.
Did we ever work with communications and try to do something for our internet speed here?
I did touch base with Josh, he gave me his recommendation, and then I met with Ian from Block 5. Their solution is to move to a fiber solution, and a more costly solution is if we were to relocate. So their suggestion is to name one of the buildings as the EOC, and so then we would be provided with more constant uptime. But instead of paying $150 a month, you're paying $450 a month. So, but it's just that cost of guaranteed uptime. So right now they're recommending just moving to a fiber network, which would still stay within this budget cost here.
I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but the hardware is at an actual of 36, but going to 47, so why the?
We pay that monthly, so we haven't paid, it's like $3,500 that we pay per month.
Okay, I'm just not fully understanding why we go from, so it's 36 actual, but it goes from 45 to 47?
Yes.
Okay, all right, got it.
Are those, the 45 to 47 bump, is that contractual increases or just all the other stuff that you mentioned that's
That
getting
is
rolled in there?
Partially contractual.
Partially contractual.
And then this is moving in there,
Okay,
these yearly
And then
renewals, that's-
depending on the licenses for Microsoft, those are like
Right.
almost $18 a month
Right.
for each person.
did we
So-
successfully get, I think it was planning board we were trying to
Yes.
get, that went through with the emails?
Yes,
In other words, getting members of the board.
Planning board,
their own email,
official
their
.gov.
Brentwood.gov
Yep.
email account.
And then the same thing for the software support, going up from 21,000 to 24,000. Same thing, most of that is contractual
Yes.
with these companies that we use for all of our software. Okay. And the actual impact on the budget is less than that, it's only about 3,000 because of us taking the website out. Saves a little bit of money on here. So the overall budget goes from 72,470 to 75,322. Other questions for Karen?
I'm gonna move the 75,322.
Second?
All in favor, Andy?
Aye.
John? Russ?
Aye.
Paul? And I'm an aye, so the budget passes for 75,322. And that was the last budget we had for tonight, right Karen?
yes.
Okay, so we did those three budgets. We will move on to regular business. Reminder that the board previously had decided not to have a meeting next week because it is Halloween that night. So board members will need to come by and sign the manifest that day. And looks like Karen, you have some documents for us.
I just have the withdrawal letter to CPCNH. It needs to be signed by the board before we can submit it to their board of directors.
Okay, and we had previously already voted on this, right?
Yes.
So this is a letter to Clifton Bello, who's the Director of Member Services at CPCNH. Dear Henry, dear Henry.
I originally drafted.
Because it was Henry.
Yes.
We'll fix that. The town of Brentwood entered into a joint powers agreement with the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire on December 15th, 2022. We would like to officially withdraw our membership with CPCNH effective immediately. We do not have any continuing obligations as we have not executed any project sharing or cost sharing agreements. If you need anything further from the town in order to effectuate our withdrawal, please contact Karen Clement at phone number and email. So it looks pretty straightforward. We'll just wait for the corrected version to sign. And we don't need a vote because we voted last week. While we're waiting for Karen to fix that, we can start committee updates or regular board business, and we'll turn to Andy first.
I got nada.
Nada? Okay, John, any updates for us?
No.
No? Okay. Russ?
The Energy Committee, we just discussed the letter, so that's the big news coming out of there. I don't know, Karen, is there anything else that we haven't, we didn't talk about since last week?
The survey went up on the
Oh,
town
yeah, the
Facebook
survey,
page.
yes, right. And you've shared that on social media,
Town website?
I did the survey today, it took like 3 minutes. It's pretty quick, easy.
There's paper copies too in the main entryway here.
At the library.
and at the library. Thank you. What's the gist, Jen? How would you describe it for people to
It's
perhaps entice them?
basically asking some basic information about you as a consumer and what you are interested in terms of like what goals you would like to see if we went towards community power, how you feel about using more energy efficiency types of power, and what steps you've taken in your own life potentially to be energy efficient, like using LED and things like that. It's pretty just basic. I think it's looking for some like basic just ground setting. It's nothing very substantial, but it just kind of, I think, gives an idea of what people are looking for in the town. Probably the most helpful, I would think, for the future of this board's decisions is a question about if we could find greener sources of energy in town, would you be interested in doing that if it cost about the same, a little more, or a lot more? And I think that's a big deciding factor for different towns. So I think it'd be really interesting to see how that comes out, that question.
Thanks. ZBA met last night, and there was just one application to consider Balzoni property right off of Mill Road, and right at that, basically, where the new road to the new development is going to be. There's an older set of buildings there that are gonna come down, and a new house will be built, and they needed forgiveness for some, the variance to be, it's like you're supposed to be 75 feet from the center line of the road, and they're gonna be 70 feet. Overall, it's gonna be, seems to be the consensus that it'll be an improvement overall for the neighborhood, as some of these buildings are quite old, and also some of them are located within the wetlands, and way within that 75 feet, like as in like 7 feet from the road. You know, because they're old, older than the road was built, so. Anyway, so that passed. I'm no longer a voting member of ZBA, but I was there. And also ZBA ZBA needs a 5th member. And apparently there have been no applicants. So probably a good time to mention that. If anyone has an interest in zoning issues, you meet based on necessity. So if there's an application, there's a meeting, usually the early part of the following month. And yeah, you can apply in the town office or via email.
They can send me an email, yes.
Express
they-
interest and you can walk through.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. The communications committee, I talked with Steph Linden yesterday, and she said that she's expecting a website prototype next week. They were hoping it was this week, but it's gonna be next week. Communications committee, a committee that is well represented here tonight, as a matter of fact, will then take a look at it and then bring it eventually to us, hopefully. You know, let me put it this way, the chair of the communications committee, Steph, she very much understands that we all feel that, you know, the sooner the better. We can't rush it and make, obvious, obviously we don't wanna make any kind of mistakes or whatever, but we all understand we can't make perfect the enemy of the good. Anytime you roll out a new website, there are gonna be little things here and there that have to be tweaked, but, anyway, so that's in process, and at some point, Karen, we can talk about this later, but, the idea of setting a date when the communication committee hands over, if you will, transfers ownership officially to the town. We'll need to figure that out as well. We had I was over at the fire department last week for the emergency Seabrook drill. That was my first time doing that. As far as I could tell, everything went well. Rick Murphy, of course, led it and did a great job. Daphne was sitting next to me. Who else was there? Wayne was there, and Officer Spitaleri was there on like no sleep. And then was subsequently, he got promoted.
Yes.
Like a couple days later. Not based on his performance. Although he did,
He did perform well
we
on
all
no sleep.
we all walked out of there.
He was on midnights all week.
But that was an interesting process to be a part of. And I think that's more or less it. I guess communications committee folks are here, library folks are here if you wanted any other updates, but that's it for me.
Any movement on the audiovisual with the planning board and?
Yeah, not that I know of.
Josh
Karen?
did email Jillian, but I'm not sure that the two of them have connected in person yet. I think that came through late last week.
And when that does come forward, do we have appropriate funds, or do we plan to use impact fees? For
Either
that?
impact fees or the planning board has some money in.
Okay,
their
so we don't need to
budget.
make any budgetary allowances for that when that's ready?
I don't think so.
Was that the money that they encumbered from last year?
No, they have $8,500 in their long-range planning line that they were going to use to pay for master plan chapters, but they've already paid for them, so Jillian said she doesn't have any intentions in spending that money at this point.
Any other board business that you had, Russ?
No, thanks. All good.
Paul?
Planning board was canceled this Thursday, so nothing there, other than getting my masks undusted for Friday.
Are you gonna be a scare?
To be,
Nice.
yeah, so I'm gonna look for a scary mask and that's
Okay,
about it,
good.
so.
Not too scary for the little kids, just later on, it can be really scary. All right, sounds good. Anything else you had for board business? Okay, and I do not have anything new tonight, other than Karen, just a reminder that we were gonna post the public hearing dates for the
right.
community power as
Energy.
well on the Facebook and our website. So if we, because I think the first one of those is coming up in about 2 weeks.
I forgot, yeah.
So if we can post those, that would be
November
great.
6th is the first.
November 6th, and I think 15th, I want to say.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's on the website, but we'll have it put on Facebook.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, just so people know that those are coming up and they can come to one or either or both of those if they're
Yeah,
interested.
so for anyone listening, that's related to actually related to the letter we signed earlier. And so if you want to get up to speed or offer your opinion on what's happening next with all that energy committee work, November 6th and November 15th are the public meetings. So yeah.
Great. All right, any other board business for tonight?
Karen, anything from DRA on tax rate setting?
No, not yet. That was on my list of things to do today, but I didn't get to it. So I'm gonna reach out to Catherine, our new DRA rep, to see where we are.
Do they give us like a suggested timeline, or we just have to kind of wait until
They
they're ready?
don't, they'll usually call me and say, I'm ready for you, when can we set up a time? And I say, I will drop everything for you when it's time. But
So we're still
pushing-
waiting?
Yeah, guess, but we're pushing up against,
I feel like last year it was kind of delayed like this as well, right?
well, and then the public hearings where they delayed the utility settings, so that pushed everything back 3 weeks. So that's part of the delay as well,
Okay. So hopefully that will be happening soon.
yes.
Paul just asked a very important question, the time, do we have time set for the energy, public meetings?
Yes,
They
the
are at-
public hearings are at 6 PM, I believe.
I think so.
Either day, they're both at
notification.
6. Yeah.
They're both at 6, I believe, yeah, the notification has been posted. I think they're both at 6, if I remember correctly. But we'll get that put out on the Facebook page as well, so people can see that. Our Facebook page, I just happened to look today to see what had been posted. We're up to like 750 people that follow that, so it has gone up. I definitely would encourage anybody listening who doesn't follow that to follow it, because it does have helpful information. They don't post very often, just important stuff gets posted. So if you're not following that, I would recommend you do so.
And it is 6 PM.
Thank you.
Any other board business? And we have no non-public? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Did Janice or were they here for Liz for a particular reason? Or?
Did you guys have anything that you wanted to bring up for the board?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment to thank Wayne. We had our trees delivered, our free trees, our discounted and donated trees delivered, and we needed somebody to deliver bark mulch and soil to cover them over so that they could winter. And Wayne came out with a truck and shoveled all the stuff in, and it was awesome for us. It
Oh,
was
great.
saving us money and making sure that, well, hopefully they will live through the winter. So-
Awesome. So thank you to Wayne, as always, for just
Yeah.
getting it done.
Yeah.
Great.
Call him up and he's there. He's like, I got the truck, I could be here after lunch.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll add it to our website.
We'll pass that along to him. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second?
All in favor? Andy?
Aye.
John? Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll adjourn at 6:47.
Good night, John.
I guess it isn't this Jillian.
Hey, John, boy.
She's like, I good luck, I die.
Hey, feedback?
Yes.
This is why